Okay, so at this point, maybe you've watched several of my videos and you're thinking, Brazil looks like a pretty cool place. I really would like to go down there and learn to play foot volley or whatever. And, you're thinking, maybe I could do this teach English thing. Maybe it's really not so hard. But you're still kind of at a loss to know like how to get the ball rolling, how to make all of this happen. And I understand because thinking back to when I came down here way back when, I mean there was a lot to do. So let's see if we can kind of create for you a high-level roadmap, a major that you need to do to make this dream actually happen. Okay, step one, you need to create a timeline because any project, and this is a project after all, needs a timeline to make it happen. You need to know when you're going to do things, you need to know in what sequence you need to do things. Now, something that I did not say earlier, and it's very important, is when is the best time to come down to Brazil? Well, the absolute best time would be like late March or April, and you could come up to say as late as August, but late March or April I feel is optimal. And why is that? Well, between the middle of December and the middle of February usually, or first of March, there's a lot happening down here in Brazil. For one thing, that's summertime in the southern hemisphere, so a lot of people are taking summer vacations. You also, of course, have Christmas, you've got New Year's in there, you've got Carnival that kind of floats around in February to early March. And so there's a lot happening, and people really just aren't thinking about starting English classes at that time. In fact, many schools may actually be closed for part of that time. So the absolute best time to come down would be, say, March or April. Now, once you have that pegged, then you can start backing up and doing all of your other planning. Step two, you need to try and fix a location. Where are you going to come down? Is it, you're set on Rio, or maybe João Pessoa, where John is hanging out right now? That sounds kind of interesting. Or kind of think about where you'd like to go. Create a short list kind of based on what's important for you. If you have to be near a beach, for example, or you're just focused on making money, you like big cities, you don't like big cities, kind of narrow down what's important for you and get yourself a short list of just 2 or 3 cities, and then start doing some research on them. Obviously, you can find just about anything online. As far as costs go, you can find how much it would cost to live in a particular city by going to sites such as expat.com, Quora.com might be good. You can post questions there, and probably the best would be Numbeo. That's numbeo.com. For larger cities around the world, not just in Brazil but around the world, you can find real good information there about what different things cost in different cities, and it's provided by people who actually live in those cities. So it's information that you can trust. So with this information, you can start developing kind of a budget. You can start figuring out what it's going to cost to live there. You can look at flights and find out what flights are going to cost. And by the way, after Carnival, they drop a lot. So another good reason to come down, in the March or April time frame. So now you can start thinking about, putting together some money to come down here, and that leads us to step 3. All right, so for step 3, you do need to start saving up a cushion. You need, obviously, money to buy your flight ticket to come down here, but you also want to have a cushion of $2,000-3,000 US to tide you over until the money starts coming in. Now, I can help you to really get started earning more quickly. Listen to me, because I was teaching my second week down here, so if you do it smart, you can start teaching right away. But if you do that, if you're working for schools, for example, you're not going to get paid day one. You're going to get paid, at the end of the month. So, and of course, it's going to be a matter of stepping up, ramping up, right, adding students as you go. So you do need to have some money to tide you over. How much is going to depend largely on where you choose to live and the living arrangement that you're looking for. But start saving up money. If you need some ideas on how to do that, there's a guy out there what's his last name? Matt. He goes by Nomadic Matt, and he's got a couple of good books out on Amazon that talk about how to plan for a long travel. Now, again, his is focused on a long travel rather than coming down to Brazil and staying for a while. But still, he gives you a lot of good tips on how you can cut expenses and find money that could help you to build your cushion. Step 4. I think the next thing you want to do is to prepare yourself. Start preparing yourself. So, for example, find yourself a couple of good grammar books. I've mentioned Raymond Murphy's Essential Grammar and Use and English Grammar and Use. These are excellent books to pick up. And start boning up on your grammar a bit. You're probably a little bit rusty. I was before I came down. Really focusing more on terminologies. I mean, you know how to speak English. You know if a sentence is correct or not. You just need to know proper terminologies. This is also the time to start thinking about what's your niche going to be. And by that I mean, essentially what students are you going to teach? What ages? Are you going to have a specialty like, airline pilots or business English or university students, helping them prepare for the TOEFL or IELTS, or what are you going to do? So this is a good time to start thinking about that, and just generally preparing yourself to teach English. Now, one thing that I've noted earlier, and I'll stand by this, is I really don't think you need to worry about getting a TOEFL or CELTA certification unless you're thinking that teaching English as a second language is going to be a career for you. But if you're just looking to come down to Brazil for a while, I wouldn't waste my time and my money on it. Now, one other thing that you need to start doing to prepare yourself, and I forgot to mention this earlier, and I came back to record this because it's really very important, is to start learning Portuguese. You're going to need it down in Brazil. It helps you in your classes, but beyond that, you're going to need it just to function day to day. And really, to get the most out of your time, your experience in Brazil, you're going to need a basic vocabulary in Portuguese. And there's no reason to wait. Now, once you get down here, you can sign up for courses. They have lots of courses, Portuguese para estrangeiros, Portuguese for foreigners, but there's no reason to wait. It takes a while to learn a language, obviously, so why not get started today? And I want to say, even if you speak Spanish, start learning Portuguese. If you're pretty good in Spanish, you may be tempted to say, I don't need to get by on my Spanish. Well, although the two languages, of course, are closely related and they read pretty similarly, they don't sound the same at all down here. So even if you're good in Spanish, you're going to have trouble understanding Portuguese. And if you try and speak your Spanish to the people down here, they'll understand a lot, but there's still room for confusion. When they speak back to you in Portuguese, you'll realize, wow, these really are two different languages. So go ahead and get started learning Portuguese. As I say, once you get down here, there are a bunch of classes, but go on YouTube. You can find stuff. There's italki and a bunch of these programs that will match you up with a native speaker. So there are plenty of ways where you can get started learning online today. Okay, step 5, and this is a step, frankly, that I kind of overlooked, and you really shouldn't, and that's to think about healthcare and health insurance. So some things you want to do, get a checkup. If there are regular meds that you have to take, then get those filled up. Of course, get a checkup. Get some basic vaccinations. I mean, we should all get tetanus boosters every few years. I got one last year. Also, depending on where you're going in Brazil, you might want to get some additional stuff like yellow fever vaccination. I don't want to frighten you, but it's there is yellow fever cropping up every once in a while in different places, and you might want to get a yellow fever vaccination. They don't hurt, by the way. So do that. Also, look into your insurance. Now, this is going to vary a lot depending on where you're from and whether, for example, your country provides national health insurance or not. But you need to figure out what's going to be covered and what is not here. And very likely you'll need a rider. There are companies out there such as IMG that offer like a Patriot policy, which is really good for people who are traveling around. And this is really important if you're like from the U.S. because your whatever health policy you have probably is only going to cover you for about 2 weeks abroad, and they're typically designed for people who are just doing a short vacation. So you need to basically wherever you are, whatever your current situation is find out what you will and will not be covered for in Brazil, and then look at getting some coverage, even if that's just like bare bones coverage that'll fly you back to your home country. Hopefully you won't need it, but better safe than sorry. You don't want to worry about it, and this coverage is typically very cheap. Now, I'll add, you can get health insurance down in Brazil. You don't even have to be a permanent legal resident to get it down here, but many things are not going to be covered for the first 6 months. So if you're only looking to come down here for 6 months, it obviously doesn't make sense for you to get a policy down here. Rather, look again at what you're covered for, not covered for back home, and get a rider to your current health insurance policy or a separate traveler's policy. All right, step 6, begin your job search. And I would start doing this about a month maybe before coming down here. You can start looking for jobs from your home country. Now, I need to set the expectation that it's quite unlikely, could happen, but it's quite unlikely that you're going to be offered a job before you come down here to Brazil. It's possible maybe if you're applying with an international school, they might do a Skype interview with you and hire you on the basis of that and your CV and prior experience. But for most of you folks coming down here, you're not going to actually be offered work until you get down here and they can size you up. And that's pretty much the way it works across Latin America. They just want to see you. They want to, and plus a lot of people kick tires and say, yeah, I'm coming down, and never show up. So they don't, the schools don't want to waste their time on people until they're actually down here. But what you can do is get your credentials together, get your materials together, and send emails out to schools in the city or cities that you're targeting, and see who's interested. And then that way, when you arrive down here, you'll have a short list of schools to contact and say, hey, I'm here now, let's set up an interview. That, in fact, is exactly what I did. I think the numbers for me, I don't remember exactly how many emails I sent out. Might have been 100, might have been more than that. But kind of narrowed it down. I got responses from many, and I think it was 8 that I actually interviewed with in Rio. 6 offered me work, and I accepted 4. And so that was how it went for me. And doing this in advance really accelerated the process when I came down, and that was what allowed me to be teaching my second week in Rio. And so I was making money from the get-go. And by the way, I can provide for you listings of private language schools by, at least for the major cities, the state capitals and major cities in Brazil. If you sign up for my course, which I'll talk about in a minute, you get a one free. If not, just write to me at support@teachenglishinbrazil.com and tell me what you need, and I'll see if I can help you out with that. Beyond schools, you're probably going to want to add some private students, if not day one, as soon as you kind of get grounded in teaching, working through schools. So I advise getting some cards printed up and flyers. I mean, this is very low tech. They're very cheap, but they work. They work really well. And you can get those things printed up even if you don't have a local phone down here yet. Whatever phone you have, get WhatsApp on your cell. And everybody down in Brazil uses WhatsApp, so that'll give them a way to contact you on your cell. Of course, you can provide your email address. You could set yourself up a Facebook page in lieu of going through the expense and headache of setting up a website. And then now you've got a way people can look at you, learn about you, and contact you. So now you're again ready to hit the ground running when you arrive. And finally, yes, if you're serious about this, I'd like to encourage you to take a look at my course about teaching English in Brazil, hosted over on Teachable. It's soup to nuts. You're not going to find anything else like it out there, and the full price is only $119 US. Sometimes I'll run specials, offer coupons. But even at the full price, I mean, that's a fraction of what you'll probably pay for your air ticket to come down here. So, why not prepare yourself and learn from my mistakes, all the stuff I learned the hard way through the years. I've put in this course. It covers everything from stuff to do, preparing before you come down here, to working for schools, to working for yourself. Also talks about, aside from the teaching aspect, it talks about what it's like to live here day to day in Brazil. So, the whole thing is designed to help you maximize your income, minimize your headaches, maximize your fun. And as a part of that, I mentioned already, you'll get a listing of schools. You choose the city. I'll provide you a listing of schools there to help you kickstart your job search. And probably more importantly than that, included in there is a one-on-one session with me. We can look at your strategy, look at your niche, answer whatever questions, whatever doubts you have. I've been doing this a while, folks, so whatever your question is, I could probably give you an answer to it. So if you're serious about doing this, I think it's a good investment. But either way, yes or no, I think Brazil is a great place to come. You'll come or you won't, but I'll just kind of paraphrase what one of my favorite authors, Mark Twain, wrote many years ago. He said, 20 years from now, you'll regret more the things you did not do than the things that you did. And I hope that you don't look back some years from now and say, damn, I wish I'd taken a flyer and gone to Brazil. But yes or no, I wish you all the best in whatever you do.